Have you ever noticed that sometimes the things in our homes can seem to create a kind of mental chatter or a noise in our head? Not a hello, nice to see you chatter, but more of a you bought me and now what are you going to do with me chatter. A chatter, or I call natter, of unwanted little reminders. Items we bought thinking we'd use someday, like bins. Things we put off doing, like cookbooks. Stuff we are reminded that we shouldn't have bought in the first place, like excess food. And sometimes they even remind us of who we thought or hoped to be by now. And lately, especially now that I'm retired and spending more time at home, I've become much more aware of what I really do use and what just takes up space. So it's time to just start fresh and stop bringing the things into my home that I don't need and the things that I don't want to keep nattering at me. Today I'm sharing some things I refuse to buy anymore for my home and why. And as always, this is just what works for me at this stage of life. No judgment at all, just sharing what I've learned. Clothing. One of the biggest ones for me is clothing. Now that I'm retired, I have far fewer occasions where I need out of the house or street clothes. Most days I'm just comfortable at home. I'm sure I could go 3 to 5 years without buying anything new and still have too much in my closet. As I've asked myself before, how many denim shirts or gray hoodies does one person really need? And I've also stopped buying seasonal one-time outfits or the classic, this will look great when I lose 10 pounds, or trendy items. At this point, I think I've earned the right to wear what's comfortable. At my age, I know my body type and what looks best on me. I'm not going to be taken in by some trend, and truly, I wouldn't even know what's trendy anymore, and I'm kind of okay with that. Buying too much or excess food. I've also stopped buying excess groceries. I've realized I tend to cook the same meal on repeat until I get tired of it anyways. That's one of the great things about living alone. No one to say, we can't possibly be having this for dinner again. But when I shop without a plan, impulse items end up in the cart and then end up in the garbage. So now I try to buy only what I know I'll use that week. Less waste, less clutter in the fridge, and less money spent. And as far as snack foods go, if I don't have it, then I can't eat it. Although we all know a delicious 5-minute mug cake recipe we can whip up in times of need. Stress or boredom shopping. I've also learned not to shop when I'm stressed or bored, because usually what comes home with me isn't something I truly needed. It was just filling a moment. What's that saying? You can never get enough of what you don't really want. And clearance sales can be just as dangerous. Buying something simply because it's on sale, even though you never planned to buy it in the first place, still costs money and adds clutter, and eventually will be tossed in the garbage. Aspirational purchases. This one was a big lesson for me. I've stopped buying things for the person I hope to become. Planners and budget binders and organization systems. I've bought these with the best intentions, thinking they'd help me become more organized or disciplined. But it turns out I'm just not a planner or budget binder person. I've come to accept that sticky notes as reminders, the calendar on my phone, and my trusty Excel budget spreadsheet work just fine for me. Buying organization tools doesn't automatically create new habits. Decor. Candles, throw pillows, blankets, all of which are my weaknesses. But after selling my home a few years ago and moving multiple times since then, I've given away so many decor items. Seeing old photos, I'm struck by how much was given away. And honestly, I already have more than enough. I can rotate what I still own every few months to freshen things up instead of buying more. So now I try to stay out of stores like HomeSense because I really don't need anything else. And I'm not sure whether I'm trying to convince you or me. Seasonal decor. Another thing I buy much less of now is seasonal decor. At one time, I liked having decorations for every season and holiday, but over time, it started to feel like more work than enjoyment. Taking things out, putting things away, finding them, storing them. Now I keep things much simpler. A few small touches are nice, but I certainly don't feel the need to decorate every corner anymore. Cookbooks. Cookbooks are another thing I don't impulsively buy anymore. If I'm truly interested in the book, I'll borrow it from the library or look up recipes online first. If I absolutely love it, then yes, I may buy it. But most often, after taking a deeper look, there are only a very few recipes in the book that I actually would find myself making. So why buy an entire book that ends up sitting on the shelf, making me feel guilty? I have half a dozen of my tried and true cookbooks that are more than enough when I feel the urge to experiment with a new recipe. Printer and ink. My printer didn't make the cut when I moved to my small apartment a couple of years ago. I just had no room for it. And honestly, there have been very few times that I've missed it. And I've certainly not missed paying outrageous ink prices. Most times the ink costs more than the printer itself. I only have to print maybe a handful of things a year now. So when I do need to print a document, I just go to the library and pay 20 cents per page. Or Staples is another option, although a little bit more expensive. Still, much cheaper than the cost of ink and the bother of having to store an item that hardly ever gets used. Protein bars and shakes. Costco opened here in our city a little over a year ago, and we all know that can play havoc on normal shopping needs and requirements. I fell into the trap of buying cases of protein bars and shakes and eating way too many of them. Yes, they can be delicious and are handy as an occasional meal replacement. But for me, it's easy to overdo them, and many are loaded with sugar and fat and ingredients I can't even pronounce. I have the time now. I can make a green smoothie and fill it with hemp and flax and berries and spinach, and it will have way more protein than any sugary shake that I could buy. Also, I've come across a couple recipes for homemade protein bars and snacks that I really love, made with very few ingredients and so much healthier than those protein bars that I was enjoying a little too often. I'm going to leave the recipes for those protein snacks because I love them that much. They're down below in the description. Storage for things I don't need. This one was a big realization for me. I used to buy storage bins and organizers thinking I was getting organized. But sometimes all I was really doing was organizing things I didn't actually need. So now, before buying storage bins, I ask myself, do I really need to keep what I'm storing? Sometimes the better solution is simply having less. And now I have to get rid of all the plastic storage bins that used to hold all of the stuff that I didn't really need. What I've realized is that by not bringing unnecessary things home, a place that we all want to be our sanctuary, well, this actually gives us freedom. There's less to manage, less to clean, to organize, and find homes for. A calm, uncluttered space is so much easier to take care of and so much quieter too. When my kids were younger, I remember spending entire days cleaning the house. Do you remember that as well? I remember Saturdays cleaning the house from top to bottom, morning till evening, and I didn't even have a big house. And by Monday, it seemed to be right back to the chaos. But now, because there's less stuff and just me, cleaning isn't a big event anymore. It's just regular small upkeep, a few minutes here and there, and life feels lighter. At this stage, a calm, comfortable home matters more to me now than having lots of stuff. I think buying less makes me appreciate what I already do have more. And just to say, no judgment at all. This is simply what works for me right now. But I'd love to hear from you. Is there anything that you found you've stopped buying for your home over the years? Let me know in the comments. I always enjoy hearing your stories. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'm so very glad that you did. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time. Take care.